right side of to the right ear, okay? Which meant when you hear a lot of things, when you have a download that starts as a frequency um, through the right ear, it is then a left brain upgrade, okay? So the right side of your body has to do with the left brain, and the left side of your body has to do with the right brain, okay? So the left brain is logic, pure and simple, okay? And the right brain is about creativity and love and happy impulsivity, okay? So there's no impulsivity over here based on anything other than like math, logic, science, quantum physics, right? It's all logic, it's all sequential or mathematical, if you will. Whereas the right brain is creative, loving, open, expressive, joy. Okay. So, our mastering impulsivity, the next level activation that came through. Now, I am standing there. Was just getting ready to put my phone back in my dad's fanny pack because I had no pockets, no purse, no nothing out there. And I heard it come through the left ear, and I thought, wow, I mean, it was. And when these things happen, no matter where I am, you might ask my neighbor, it happens in public all the time. I'm just like, I squint my eyes and go like this on my ear. So I was like this. And then I looked down at my cell phone, and it's 333, the number that just keeps coming up. Now, the mitochondrial DNA has to do with 3.3 is the number value associated with that. And the mitochondrial DNA is actually a really, really small portion of our DNA, which comes from the Eve line, okay? Meaning the mother line, Mother Earth, Mother Creation, Empress energy, which is the creative force within us that is exasperated by the sun. It is quantified by the sun. It is electrified by the sun, right? So we'll go back to your DNA evolves based on the light frequency that it gets. So it gets different light frequency in different cycles, and also the amount of light that you subject yourself to. So last week when I'm laying in bed, I see this on the left side in front of my face. I see a large circle that it just is a perfect circle that looks kind of like a screen. And then over here, there's all this stuff trickling into the screen. And it looked like, and we have to keep in mind, many of you may have gotten the same information, but we have to keep in mind it shows up different ways for different people. So we have a screen over here, a round screen, and then it almost looks like it was vacuum, like a slow vacuum trickle of all these red and blue particles were being slowly pulled into whatever this was. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting, because I've had a lot of unusual visions, but I will say this is one of the more unusual ones. It looked like a large screen, or almost like picture like a fly's eye, if you have ever seen one of those up close, okay? But it's pulling in or vacuuming in or magnetizing these blue and red particles into this screen. And I said, wow, that's so beautiful. What is that? You know, I'm laying in bed, I'm meditating or whatever. I'm trying to meditate, I should say. Meditation in bed always ends up to sleep to me. I do better in walking. But I lay down and I instantly start having this vision of this thing. And I say out loud, because I talk to myself out loud all the time, what is that? And then I hear mitochondrial DNA, and I'm like, mitochondrial DNA? I told you guys, I think it was the last video. My science is probably 8th grade. My biology is probably less than that. It's probably 6th grade. Okay, so it makes it a little bit confusing when things come in like this, but also makes it really simple, because I just trust the process, because I don't know any different and I don't know any better. Well, what is the significance, though, of mitochondrial DNA? It's the site of the cell's energy production expansion and migration. Okay. And for whatever reason, this particular activation, starting like at the very top of the spine or bottom of the neck and working upwards, putting pressure on both sides of the head. Okay. So this mastering impulsivity, it is an upgrade, but upgrades can be left brain, they can be right brain, they can be organ activators, they can be all kinds of stuff. So um, when we're looking around and listening to people talk about DNA upgrades or what the latest activation is, and we keep getting the same set of symptoms, that's really not necessarily the truth, because it when we have an activation, there are certain things that always kind of come with it. But those things expand every time. So next level activation, which I was talking about coming through with that frequency that they were trying to override on the 4th, was the mitochondrial DNA site of cell energy production, expansion, and migration. And I didn't realize at the time, because these things are delivered to me in parts and pieces. Sometimes a sign rolls by on a truck. Sometimes it's a vision. Sometimes I hear stuff. Sometimes coming from you guys. A lot of times, coming from higher self. It's all over the place, right? So it's really important for us to know that this next level activation is about the mitochondrial DNA, which is a very, very, very small portion of DNA that comes from mother, right? They literally termed it Eve, as in Adam and Eve. It comes from the Eve line. And mitochondrial DNA, as long as that family line, let's say that family line, two people have children, it will go, that mitochondrial DNA will go completely down that family line, and they will all have the identical mitochondrial DNA, which should make life very interesting for my family, because yes, in case anyone wanted to know, I am the weirdo. I am the strange one, and everybody in my family is intuitive or psychic to the spectrum in which they believe that it's possible. But as you can imagine, I am the out there species, which is very interesting if we all had the same mitochondrial DNA from Eve, from mother, right? So your mitochondrial DNA comes from the mother line, and that is specifically talking to you about the mother of creation, about your creation energy. So back to us being in the woods, 333 is when this went off in this ear. And I knew instantly that it was what I predicted it was, because of the frequency of it. As I said, when electric things or electromagnetic things, even inorganic or man-made EMPs or electromagnetic pulses, they have a sound that is not a fun frequency. Okay, like I said, it's like the music in a movie before someone gets murdered or wrecks a car or something, before something bad happens. Let's put it that way. So right. So at 333, I instantly knew that this was coming, and that this is actually what I had predicted was going to come. And I found it very interesting that they were running. They said they were going to run this at 220, and the actual frequency that came in was at 333. So as you can see, as I said before, I am aware that they were aware of it coming in all the way down to the time frame, because they started literally like 1 hour and 11 minutes, 111. They're super into these numbers, you guys. They started at 1 hour and 11 minutes before the actual frequency that I made a video about was coming in. So I found that very interesting. Now, since I've moved into this building, feeding the birds has become quite a habit for me. And in doing so, I have learned more about birds in the last 2 years than I have ever known about birds. And most of my messages come through in birds, or through bird symbology, and things like that. So when we went back into the woods, it was after, let's see, when do we go back in the woods? It was like 2:37, I think. So it was after they already started the frequency. 768 acres, and not one bird and not one insect was making a sound. Now, even if I walk into my local woods back here, the birds are absolutely everywhere. I mean, you can just hear them as soon as you step back there. So it was amazing. Not one bird. And around me, I have, I'm surrounded by nature reserves. One's 1,459 acres, the other one's like 200 and some acres. But you can always hear the birds, and you can hear them and see them even in the city. But when you go into their territory, when you go into you go into their area, um, it's a way different scenario to see them in their natural state and in their natural frequency. So we go back in the woods, and it was close to 20 minutes after this frequency started. No birds, no insects, nothing. In fact, we were walking barefooted on this trail. We had decided to take our shoes off, and I brought a backpack so I could carry my shoes, and then ditch the backpack if I wanted to. But we were carrying our shoes in our backpack, and my dad was like, "Oh crap!" And I was like, "What?" And I looked down. There's a 4-foot snake in the middle of the bike trail. And I was like, wow, he's not even moving. So my dad goes up to back its tail and like kind of tickles its tail and goes, "Hey, little buddy, are you okay?" And then of course it moved. And I'm like, "Thanks a lot. I'm trying to cross the bike trail here." But the snake had stopped. The birds had stopped. All the insects had stopped. There was literally nothing going. Now, I'm not sure which frequency they were reacting to, because they were completely still and quiet when I went into the woods. It was around 2:37. At around 3:30, at 3:33 was when I actually heard that frequency come in the left side, which was the right brain activation, because many of the ones we've had in the recent past have been left brain, which means you're getting math, you're getting logic, you're getting code. Okay, this particular activation, next level activation, was about creativity, it was about joy, it was about love, expansion, and open gateways. Okay, open gateway is your at a microcosmic level within your body, the mitochondrial DNA, that screen, as I saw it, was opening up and pulling in those alterations, because that's just what I saw. Now, when I looked it up today, because I didn't even look it up until today, I saw this, I don't know, 5 or 6 days ago. It said it was the site of the cell's energy production, expansion, and migration. So that's what I was hearing, and that is what I was telling you guys that was going to come. Now, we took our shoes off and climbed up this amazing, amazing hill. It was so steep that they actually had cut a few steps into it, and occasionally there was a piece of wood or rocks or whatever to keep from losing this, having this pathway be eroded away, and that's how steep this hill was. At the top of this hill was where the Hopewell Indians lived. And I thought it was so interesting in making all those videos about what are they saying is going to happen on October 4th versus what I was receiving, what I was hearing, what I was saying, and get to the top of the hill and read the sign. And it's Hopewell, like, like hoping all is well, right? But all is well. And it is exactly what I knew it was going to be. So it took us about an hour to get to the top of this hill with no shoes on. And at the last moment, there was this trees up there that were literally like throwing acorns down on us. And we were stepping all over acorns in the leaves. So it was quite the quite the walk. When we got to the top of the hill, there was a bench up there, and I sat down, and my dad just kind of um, laid back on it. Now, I did tell you also, and again, like I said, this is going to be a little all over the place because my last several videos have gone into activations, military stuff, whatever. So this place called Fort Ancient, they have like a little gift shop and a picnic area and stuff, but that's a mile away from the top of the hill where the stone platform was, where we were sitting down. And I looked over and I thought, there's a mailbox over there. And I thought, why is there a mailbox? The mailman surely is not going to walk a mile from the main area to put mail in the mailbox. The mailman is not going to do that. And so I'm like, the mailbox looked brand new and it was black. Now this is where I'm telling you, part of our DNA activations are our responsibility. Like, they happen. They just happen when light frequencies change and we're exposed to this massive light frequency change. They happen. The other part of that, though, is us doing our due diligence as far as how we take care of ourselves and all that stuff. But in saying that, looking up things for so long, the way things happen for me is almost like being inside like a movie production, or being inside some sort of video game. Like when you're in a video game, like you know what you're doing, you're climbing this hill, you're getting this pot of gold, you're doing this, you're whatever you're doing, right? But reality is just like that for me. Very rarely does something happen where I have to write it down or give it any thought. So I'm thinking, why is the mailbox so far away from the main thing, right? Well, think about that symbolically. So what we're receiving may be way out of the box or far from the establishment, so to speak. Okay, this is how it was dropping to me in real time. Brand new mailbox, black. What's the dark secret? Mail means message. You've got mail, you've got delivery, you've got a download, right? Whatever's coming through. Interestingly enough, on this brand new dark, shadowy mailbox, black mailbox, somebody had taken like a white Sharpie or a white paint pen and wrote America across it, really large. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So the message, there is a message here, and it pertains to America. What could it possibly be? And you know, my 6 placements in Scorpio were like, I look back at my dad and I'm like, okay, I'm opening the mailbox. And so I opened the mailbox and I said, hey, Dad, guess what's in the mailbox? And he's like, leaves. And I said, yes, there are leaves in the mailbox. But in the leaves, there was military. There was a military person. And my dad usually watches my videos, but I don't know that he has watched the last couple of videos that I made. And I said, I'll tell you what this means right here and right now. Right, this message may seem dark. The packaging of this message may seem dark, black mailbox, but America is written in all white letters. So it's really about the illumination of something within that box. What is that box? I opened that mailbox and there's a little army guy in there about this tall. And I said to my dad, symbolically, if there is a bunch of little army men in there and guns and other paraphernalia, I would say the message is, the dark message or the secret message is, there's light, there's wisdom coming, and it's coming to America through some sort of war, whether that be, you know, civil war or world war, whatever it is. But there's only one man in the mailbox, and that is a military person. So message coming from an unlikely source, or what may seem like a dark source, is really not. It is focused on America. I'll go back to that Foo Fighters thing. Somebody messaged me and was telling me about the band, the Foo Fighters, and their tour in Texas. Have been getting constant military messages about Texas as well. I'm sharing some of the military messages, but not all of them. But it was interesting that she brought that up, because I don't believe I said anything to you guys about the military action starting in Texas. Very interesting. So the mailbox, the delivery, the message is about the military, okay? But it is the opposite in which it appears. So it may appear to be in a black mailbox. So it may be appear to be dark, deceptive, etc. But it's really not. It's military action on the side of the light. And when you pray to God, pray to Jesus, doesn't really matter. Prayer, meditation, Buddha, Shiva, right? Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. You always, always, always get answered. But it's not in a voice standing over your bed answering you back. Well, if it is, it's higher self. But those messages come through in what you see from the time you ask that question until the next day, until you ask another set of questions. And that's whether you ask questions of yourself, questions of your family, questions of your loved ones, questions of your friends. I can't tell you how many times you guys have reached out to me, or I've reached out to one of you, and then messages start coming through right after we are talking. So 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, but maybe it was 3 weeks ago, I told you that I got a message that there would be an organic EMP, that it started on the left. That's where I saw it. I physically saw it on the left, and it moved over to the right, okay? And it was symbolized by the grasshopper. When I looked up grasshopper, I told you guys that they assimilate to hundreds of thousands of frequencies, meaning it's coming hundreds of thousands of this angelic soup frequency that I told you was going to come in, came in on the left, assimilated to hundreds of thousands of frequencies. Okay, so besides the pain in the neck and the pain in the butt and everything else physically that this was, also it's connected to the third eye. I noticed when I talked to Dawn, and I noticed in my own voice ever since I think about the 3rd of October, I don't feel sick in any way, shape, or form, but my voice sounds slightly different than normal, like almost like I have a cold, kind of, which I don't. And then I talked to Dawn today. She sounded the exact same way. Yeah. The only other person I talked to was Jessie in apartment number 4. She also had that sound in her voice, that kind of nasally, kind of startable cold kind of sound. But she's like, I don't feel sick. I feel fine. So nobody is feeling sick. Everyone has been feeling that headache, tiredness, dizziness, the same old stuff. So this mastering impulsivity, this upgrade coming into the left, meaning that the frequencies, the assimilation of frequency is about, again, the right brain, right? So love, joy, creativity, next level activations of this wave of mastering this impulsivity means us going from all the time being in this, and I'm not saying that it's all the time, but we're still third dimensional, we still have a brain, we're still maneuvering 3D reality. And as long as we are, we will be using logic, we will be using math, we will be using quantum physics, we will be using science, we will be using all those parts and pieces that which encompass the left side of the brain. But this specific message, this specific download for the right brain was for us. It's about expansion in the site of the cell's energy production, expansion, and migration. So energy production, expansion, migration were all about us going from using logic to make decisions. This is something I've been talking about for close to a year now. Okay, so moving out of doing things based on logic and moving into doing things based on love, openness, and creativity. So mastering impulsivity. For those who were already on the path and assimilating to this previous step to this was I learned how to manifest and create through my spoken words to my surroundings. That's how I manifest. That's how I create reality. I know that. I make a conscious and concerted effort to speak only what I wish to create. I don't run around saying, oh, I'm sick. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. I don't do it. Okay. And you don't either. So if you haven't gone through that, you will go through that first. And the biggest part of that is talking to your body. Okay, cells, it's regeneration time. Get to work, whatever it is, right? Because when you come to be a planetary healer, that always starts with healing yourself first. Some of it was within the physical body. Everybody has parts and pieces of this. Some of us go through more of the physical stuff. Some of us go through more of the drama or the trauma or the childhood wounding stuff. Some of us go through more of the addiction stuff, but we basically kind of dabble in all of it. So after we have learned how to successfully create by using our words and speaking into our reality, that which we wish to create, not that which we don't, right? The next level activation is, what if I was free? What if you were free? What if we were all free? What if I didn't have to tell the cells in my body to get to work? What if I didn't have to tell my mitochondrial DNA, come on, baby, it's time for some energy production? Okay, this is where we've been at. But what if I was free? What if I was free from all of it? What if I don't need affirmations? What if I'm free of affirmations, right? What if I'm free from the healing process? What if I'm just free with it? Instead, I can't tell you, and I know you guys, so many of you guys have gone through this too. We spend, because part of the major thing before this last activation, the real major part of this for everyone was speaking that reality into creation. So I would walk and I would, talk to my body, and I would say an affirmation. Of course I wouldn't say it one time. I would say it and say it and say it until I could feel the momentum build up in the cells of my body, creating the change. That is what I was, what my aim was or what my goal was to do. But this upgrade is taking that a step further. What if I didn't need to use my logic? What if I don't need to heal myself? What if I don't need affirmations? What if I'm free? What if you're free? What if we're just all already free? What if everything is already taken care of, right? So now, some people can maybe easier skip to this than others because we don't all have the same level of struggle, and we don't all have the struggle in the same exact department. Okay, but when you are faced with something that is a really tough mental and or physical challenge, especially simultaneously, which many of us have gone through that are here on this channel, the biggest thing is being able to talk to yourself in a way that is believable, that you can build momentum so that you can actually change your circumstances. Because you can, put post-its all over the house and give yourself messages. But if you're reading those messages and you don't believe those messages, then there won't be any momentum to the words that are spoken out of your mouth. Because, we have a tendency when we get on the phone with people or meet people to say, oh, I'm saying, you might say, oh, I'm, tired, or I'm tired of having this cold, or I hate being sick, or whatever, all the things that, we as humanity have said our whole lives, right? But we're really conscientious of saying those things. And this is so much freedom. This is about being free from the mind, from the logic. And we always need logic. But the problem for humanity, and this has been coming through readings for a solid year now, is not the fact that you're not psychic. It's not the fact that you're not smart, or you don't, talk to your guides or talk to your higher self or any of that. It's a matter of mastering your movement based on your intuition. So acting on intuition, and that's hard. And when we struggle with that, that's when we have a real challenge mastering this impulsivity, right? Um, for example, if you're in, in the corporate world and you have a job, a lot of jobs, and I know this kind of stuff from my sister. She had that kind of job for a really long time. She said that there would be scouts that would come to her and say, "Hey, do you want to have a job interview? We see that you work at, such and such international paper, et cetera, et cetera. Would you be interested in hiring this?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's really awesome. That's really cool." And she said, "No, it's not." I'm like, "What do you mean, no, it's not?" She said, "There are people within this company that actually do that to see if you're willing to leave the job." And I'm like, "That's insanity." But what I mean by mastering impulsivity is, let's say you're in that position. You work at a place that has a lot of powerful computers and a big human resources center, and they have people doing stuff like that. Okay, so let's say your impulsivity is to call Don and say, "Hey, Don, I was interested in working with you. I heard you had an open position," right? But you didn't close out the other position first. It's acting on impulsivity, and there's nothing wrong with it. But this download is about mastering our creativity and choosing life and choosing a path based on love, joy, and creativity and manifestation, not choosing based on logic. So the logic should come in after you make the choice. And like I said, this has been coming up almost for an entire year in readings. When we look at what people's challenge are, it's almost always that they've known or heard or been shown or had visions or whatever it is, however that came, that divine wisdom spoke to them and bled through to them. They've been told or prompted to act on this intuition, but they don't do it. So then what happens is we get out of balance with our impulsivity. Okay, so the example was, you're calling Dawn saying, "Hey, living light to dark, I heard you had a job position," and your job finds out about it, right? Because you are being guided to act on your intuition, but people are terrified to do that because the brain goes, "Well, I couldn't, possibly like quit my job before I called on." So this is happening across the board. Okay. People are in unhappy marriages, so they think, and I'm not, keep in mind that I'm not talking about cheating here. Okay. But people in unhappy marriages also are doing this because they're like, "Oh, I just want to see if there's someone else out there that likes me, gets me, really understands me, because my partner doesn't anymore." And we really shouldn't judge that, because so many people that have been married for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, one person has chosen ascension pre-birth, the other person has not. So maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they were the best third dimensional partner that person could have, could want, etc. But when that changes, what happens is the same way that, we're reaching out to Dawn to look for a new job before we've done anything about our other job. Those people that are in those situations where this used to be something that was cooperative and functional and beautiful in the third dimension, it no longer is in that. So I haven't mastered my impulsivity. So I'm just going to go out. And again, I'm not talking about cheating, but I'm just going to go out there on the internet and talk to different people. And I'm going to see if there is somebody truly like me, because I thought this person, was my partner. Now, we're not just doing this inside of marriages. We're doing it within our family dynamics. We're doing it, within business partnerships. We're doing it across the board. So this activation, this next level activation, is about mastering impulsivity. Now, impulsivity also can be saying to you, "Oh God, here comes an X-class solar flare." And a lot of people have a tendency to drink alcohol or want to smoke pot or want to, and I've done it many times myself too. So this is not me criticizing you. It is a literal impulsivity for the body to want to relax when there's something that comes in that stimulates the nervous system. to the extent that these are doing. So mastering impulsivity for you is also going to be about, when all this massive energy comes in, am I prone to drinking? Am I prone to picking up cigarettes? Am I prone to taking Benadryl? Okay, so it's going to be that physical level thing. It's also so this next level activation also in its blissed out state makes you want to say, "Ooh, I am now going to go after an acting career, even though I'm 72 years old. Fuck it, who cares? I am going to get divorced at 63 years old. I don't care." So all of this light frequency, this upgrade, this DNA, which now is affecting the Eve line or the divine feminine line. Now, I'm not saying so. It comes from the feminine line. That's why they call it the Eve line, or we could call it the Mother Earth line, whatever you like here. But it's the divine feminine. Okay, that is not gender specific. Tarot cards are not gender specific, and energy is not gender specific. Feminine is intuitive, receptive. Masculine is projection, action, making a plan. Okay, we have to use those things in conjunction to work with each other all the time. But the impulsivity really, really amps up every time we have these solar flares. So it starts activating your DNA and turning your third eye amplification up and all kinds of other stuff. And you're like, what if I had the amazing job I always wanted, or this amazing career? What if I decide I'm just going to go for acting at 72 years old, or maybe I'm going to change my partnership at 63, whatever it is. It gives you this kind of blissed out, ooh, I can do anything, right? But then if we don't act on intuition, if we don't act on those prompts, the energy dissipates. Okay, so these activations at a cellular level, at a DNA level, at specifically right now the mitochondrial DNA, meaning the place where your energy production comes from, your expansion comes from, and the migration of cells and all that works inside the body is coming from right now, is activated by these things coming in and affecting our nervous system. When our nervous system gets shaky, it can be tempting: alcohol, pot, Benadryl, cough syrup, whatever. Not everybody has a proclivity to drugs and alcohol. I'm not saying that. For many of us, it's to take a walk with no shoes on, or take a salt bath. Many of you are going to be doing that too. But there's an impulsivity that comes from the sun that we can't control. So that impulsivity is to give us the momentum within the cells, within the energy production, within the expansion and the migration of the DNA. It's giving you the motivation and the momentum to say, I really do want to be an actress at 72. I really do want to quit my job at 57. I really do want to get a divorce at 63, whatever it is. But that energy is coming in, making you nervous, making you impulsive for a reason, so that you will react to your life, right, in a very beautiful way. That is, I'm acting on my intuition. Oh, hello, Renee. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so very, very, very interesting stuff here. Now, so I'm not saying mastering impulsive. I'm not saying impulsivity. So impulsivity has negative, has positive, and has neutral. The point is, these lights, this activation, these upgrades, the DNA, the mitochondrial DNA expansion, production, and migration is amping up, is changing you within the cells, so that your next level activation internally on a microcosmic level, meaning the teeny little minutia that is you, body, mind, and spirit, 333, and how you work, so that you can use that cell energy production, expansion, and migration internally at your microcosmic level to make those changes based on the impulses that the brain, the third eye, and all of our um, electromagnetic system within our body is being prompted to do, right? Because if you keep staying in that job and keep calling Don Shale for a job, you might get in trouble and she might as well, and you might even lose your job. So I'm just trying to give you like the simplest of breakdown of what this means. So we're talking about energy production, expansion, and migration to the absolute next level activation in your soul, and how it's coming through to the nervous system as impulses. And when we feel that impulsivity, what I was saying is we can then have a proclivity to going for a substance that calms us down, or just going for an activity that calms us down. Okay, salt baths, walking with no shoes, whatever. There's, like I said, this mastering impulsivity. It's not just, again, negative. It's negative, it's positive, it's neutral. And you say, okay, wow, I just got this massive rush of impulse in my job. What would it like to be and be an actress at 72 years old? Whatever. It's saying act on that intuition. Your internal mitochondrial DNA is the energy production, expansion, and migration, which means it's asking you to take what's going on internally and externally align your life with what your intuition is saying. You're expanding, right? So let's say you've been working for a company that goes against everything you believe, but maybe you've been working there, 28 years, and you've got 2 years left before you can retire and get what you've earned, your benefits, and all of that kind of stuff. If this mastering impulsivity may have you saying, I'm out, peace out, you know um, and it's not that we don't, sometimes when you talk about this, people are like, wow, so you're saying I made a horrible mistake getting into this relationship, or I made a horrible mistake getting into that job. Nothing ever is a horrible mistake. Okay. So what they call sin in Christianity is really you learning. So if you went into a cave and you never harmed an animal, you never smashed an ant as a kid, you never ate any polluted food, you never had any alcohol, any cigarettes, or whatever, yeah, it's going to be a really beautifully quiet existence. But what is your mastery of learning in that situation compared to the situations? Now, so when people say to me, oh, so you're saying I shouldn't have never gotten in this marriage 13 years ago. You're saying I never should have took this job 28 years ago. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the place in your body, your mitochondrial DNA that is producing your energy, producing your expansion, and producing the migratory energy of you moving along. Okay, you upgrading your life, you activating your life, you mastering your impulsivity. It's time to master that impulsivity. And again, impulsivity is, um, it can be good. It can come across to you. Nothing is ever good, bad, or ugly, right? It just presents itself that way. So in Christianity, when they talk about, oh, well, you have to repent for your sins. No, the whole point of a sin, really, like, so this whole idea that we came in here sin, we didn't come in here sin. The only thing that I will take from that is there are lessons that keep repeating in every lifetime, right? So we can come in with something we decided not to work on last time we were given the chance to master our impulsivity within our nervous system. Basically, what this means, the basic gist of this is mastering your impulsivity means you want to stop using logic to make decisions. You want to be in the flow with what feels good, body, mind, and spirit to do in your life. And you'll know if you're in situations where you don't feel peaceful and you don't feel good. And um, obviously that is not working out for you. Okay, so the mastering impulsivity is about using those impulses that make you want to talk to other people when you're married, just so you can know, oh God, other people are ascending, I'm not going crazy, or get out of this job that goes against, say this job is a really big polluter in your cities, in your town, in your country, and you don't want to be a part of that. Okay. So these marriages, these jobs, these family dynamics, these friendships, these neighbors, this everything that's going on serves a purpose. That's why I say in Christianity, the whole idea that, you're nothing but a sinner and God didn't want you to sin or make a mistake. Well, God, if you can believe that there is a source that created everything, all it wants to do is observe how its creations are learning. So if we didn't, quote, sin, we would never learn anything. And those that in which created us would never learn vicariously or otherwise through us if we didn't have a challenge, if we didn't meet a challenge, if we didn't expand um, and change our life. So mastering impulsivity is about the impulse coming in, expanding, changing, migrating, moving, and turning up the energy production in your cells. And you are asked in mastering your impulsivity to match your outer life with what's changing internally. Wow, I don't like to see the world polluted, so I'm not going to work for this company that does this. Wow, it doesn't really feel safe in a home where it's not peaceful, where the other person doesn't understand me. Okay, so all of those things, this upgrade within your mitochondrial DNA. Again, what is happening as an upgrade due to the fact that you are on a planet that is in the time of ascension at a solar cycle that is automatically sending you codes and upgrades, which most of you love and appreciate. But I'm here to tell you this time that this mitochondrial upgrade, this energy production, this energy expansion, this energy migration is not going to allow you to stay in something um, that is out of alignment with what's happening on the inside of your body. The inside of your body is doing some magically, beautifully produced, harmonic things right now. And so our bodies, our higher selves, are being asked, right, by the Son of God, SUN, love how they changed that one. Son of God is about delivering you the upgrade of conscious expansion. And this time, mastering your impulsivity means that which changes, expands, and migrates within me, I will use to change, expand, and migrate in my physical reality. Because we make it incredibly hard on ourselves if we know we're getting these downloads, these activations, these DNA upgrades, and yet we can say, wow, this is amazing. It's beautiful. And I'm reading about it. And I'm talking to Tina about it and talking to all these people and I'm watching videos and wow, it's all so amazing. Right. But then we are not, our body is changing physiology and we are being asked to physically match and meet the changing physiology. If I would have just come up with that, I could have made this like a 2-minute TikTok, right? And I wouldn't have to be on here for oh my God, this is literally the longest video I've made, 1 hour and 17 minutes. It's crazy. Okay, so I think you get that. The last thing I want to say is what I was saying about the grasshoppers assimilating to hundreds of thousands of frequencies. I think it was in the video I did 3 weeks ago. When in the woods, it was I want to say 5:36, sometime around 5:36 Eastern Standard Time. Guess who the first thing was to come back online? Grasshopper. So the grasshoppers all started making noise, and then we couldn't see it because it was at least 100 feet up. But we heard something, and I will say from my bird knowledge, which is definitely not expansive, it was a hawk of some kind, and he was up there making some sort of announcement. And I thought, I've got to look up and see if actually there are Like if in the bird world, there's an announcer, like an auctioneer, because it really sounded like to me that this bird was making an announcement of what was to come. Okay, so this bird was up there, this hawk was up there saying things, and then he would stop for a minute and then he would say something else. There was no response, not from another hawk, not from a bird, not from anything. Okay, but when he started talking, those grasshoppers started doing and massive frequency just shooting through the woods. And then when we started to walk out of the woods, it was right around 5:37. So I don't know when the birds were silent, because they were silent when we got there at 2:37. So it's like 3 hours later. Anyway, when we walked out of the woods and back onto the bike trail, I was probably maybe just a few minutes after that bird was up there making the announcement. Now, this is bizarre, because I've told you water takes out electromagnetic frequency really fast. Okay, so we got back on the bike trail, 5:37, after coming out of the woods, and the birds that were on the side of the bike trail, cannot believe the amount of orbs in here. The birds on the side of the bike trail that were right next to the water started speaking first. I don't know how fast sound frequency travels, but the birds right by the water started talking first, and 5 minutes later, the birds on the other path started talking, and then everything came back on at 5:37. So not a peep at 2:37 when we got to the woods, all the way until 5:37, which was, I want to say, a matter of minutes. I don't know, maybe like, I don't remember how long it took us to climb back down this huge hill barefooted, rolling on acorns, because that's kind of what we were doing. There was a lot of dang acorns. Every time thought we were out of the acorns, there was another tree. So it was like probably 20, 30 minutes, something like that, from the time that this hawk made his announcement to all the birds coming back online. And it was literally like he was telling them what to do. So this next level activation is, what is it like to be radically free? What is it like to experience radical freedom? What is it like to experience radical change? What is it like to be free from my thoughts and my logic? What does it feel like to be free from healing myself, from speaking to myself every day, working on this certain diet every day, whatever it is? Many people are experiencing different aspects of that, okay? And that all comes down to, are you willing, able, and invitational to what's happening in the DNA and mitochondrial DNA by light exposure? So that's happening if you're here on the planet. It'll be faster. The more light you are experiencing, the more full exposure of sunlight you give yourself, the faster it's happening. But if you're on this planet right now, it's happening. Okay. So what this mastering impulsivity, what this radical freedom is about, is the upgrade is literally asking us if we will, in our physical lives, match the energy production, the energy expansion, and the energy migration that's happening. Okay. So being in jobs, relationships, family dynamics, whatever, that are not peaceful, happy, joyous situations, go against the flow of expansion, production, and migration that's happening in every cell of your body. So if you're finding it fascinating, yet willing to not master the impulsivity that is, again, this solar motion at a cellular level, is pushing and pushing and pushing you to match your external reality, your external energy, your external thoughts, your external relationships, your external situations, your external jobs, with the expansion, production, and migration happening automatically on a cellular level. That's what this expansion is about. Okay? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love you. I can't believe this is, oh my gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. I'm cut off. Okay. I always ask for your feedback. You guys really never give it to me. Something I have considered doing, and I really hate doing short videos. Um, and when I say short, I mean like I really am not a fan of like doing the TikTok or the Reels, but sometimes I do it because there's something really important, and I know someone's not going to sit through an hour and a half video. So I break those things down. That being said, I always ask for your feedback, and you guys never really give it to me. But if you would prefer that I do these kinds of videos, like in smaller topics, like a half hour at a time, I would appreciate that feedback. Okay, before I talk for an hour and 30 minutes, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for being here. Now, I think I have a mosquito chasing an orb or an orb chasing a mosquito. I'm not sure which. Okay. All right. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.